Hi everyone, here we are on chapter 11 where we're focusing on choice theory and reality therapy. Choice theory kind of came second, which is an interesting thing to know about this theoretical orientation, this approach to counseling. Glasser developed reality therapy, and then after some time and experimentation and honing in on the theory itself, then he kind of presented this idea of choice theory. So choice theory is the actual theoretical foundations. The principles of the theory are called choice theory. Reality therapy is more of the techniques and how the practitioner or the counselor goes about conducting a therapeutic process or a therapy session with a client. Choice theory and reality therapy are really brief. Relatively short term. That's why they are appealing to certain groups of individuals and certain types of counselors for managed care purposes and things of that nature. There are some interesting things to me about choice theory, reality therapy. And so you'll see in the videos this week, I've got the two main players, right? We've got William Glasser and Wobbleding that are still around today. And I put websites up for you to reference where you can look into more information about both of these very prominent theorists out there and practitioners in the field. But what is namely interesting to me about choice theory and reality therapy, I always like the approach. I've mentioned before, I'm kind of a solution-focused counselor, if you will, and so this kind of nicely aligns with that. Glasser really hates the DSM, and so you'll see that come through in the video that I posted for this week, and that is so intriguing to me because we have in our counseling programs an entire course on diagnosis and treatment planning, right? And so when you think about choice theory and reality therapy and how that aligns with the counseling profession, you know, and even more so in rehabilitation counseling, because in rehab counseling we focus a lot on the diagnosis because we have to, and we have to look at what medications a person is taking, what limitations and restrictions they have, and how that impacts their life and their ultimate goal. And so with choice theory and reality therapy, kind of the foundation of it again with Glasser was that he was basically saying we're going to put that aside, and regardless of what a person's diagnosis is, unless it's one of those neurological disorders, so he kind of clumped everything into that category, that if there was a problem like Alzheimer's, then then it would be looked at a little bit differently. But something like anxiety disorder, depression, those things that we see all the time, he was basically saying, the worst thing that this profession has done is develop this DSM, which is categorize people. So I think he does have a point in that, but it's also necessary for us to be looking at diagnostic criteria and to be following the DSM. If a lot of times if you want to get paid, if you're working and billing insurance companies, they want a diagnosis. So what we saw with Wobbleding was that he embraced it a little bit more, was more realistic about, oddly with reality therapy, more realistic about the purpose of the DSM, and didn't want to just completely shun it. The last thing you kind of want to do is get on the APA's bad side. But Glasser did what Glasser was. Glasser is Glasser. So to me, that was always interesting to know. The parts of the reality therapy that really I've always been drawn to are the fact that you're always staying in the present with your client. It's in the here and now. And so the basic foundations are that we all have choices. We all can model and shape our behavior, our reactions to situations. So the symptomology is not necessarily the focus and solution in the ultimate goal setting process. We're not looking at symptomology in the past, but rather what the person is doing now. Are they getting their basic needs met? If not, how are they? How is the client dealing with that and in those problematic ways? So those basic needs of freedom and survival and fun and accomplishment and achievement. So those are the basic needs, and then within this theoretical approach. The idea is essentially that when a person's needs aren't getting met, they learn these kind of faulty ways of coping with that, and that's what we can change or help the individual change as part of the therapy process. Another aspect that is very important in choice theory and reality therapy is this idea of a quality world. And when you get out in practice, it's really important to remember, and for me, it was eye-opening when I started working with clients. And when you start working with clients, or when you know experience that you have working with clients, you get a good picture within the first session, within the intake session. You got an idea of who the individual is, and then we naturally start to form our own perceptions or assumptions about what that client needs in their life. For me, I always was thinking, wow, you were in this job, and I'm thinking in my head, internally, there's another job that'd be great for this person, and then bam, out of the blue, somebody would take me off into left field and want a completely different career change, life change, lifestyle change. And so when we're thinking about quality world, it's important to remember that we have to ask our clients what their quality world is, rather than just assuming what it might be, because they're the ones that are developing this so-called picture album in their minds of what they want a situation to be like, how they want to get their needs met, what that actually looks like to them. So quality world is one of those important concepts under reality therapy and choice theory that is key to the actual theoretical approach. Now, you're going to see a lot of different acronyms within choice theory and reality therapy. The doing, thinking, feelings, and physiology of behavior, WDEP, the cycle of counseling, when you're planning for change with the STAMIC 3. So there's all these different acronyms, and what they basically are saying, and if you look at the PDF that I put up in the class for this week, that is the cycle of counseling. Hopefully that will be useful for you to look at, but it is a relatively in-depth cycle if you really get into it. And what's interesting is that so I have like a student manual that accompanies the book, and they have an outdated cycle of counseling in there. And so the one that I have put up for you is the most up-to-date, the 2020 revision of the cycle. But so I encourage you to look at the cycle itself. You can see, the parts where the counselor comes in terms of understanding what the individual's wants are, helping the individual plan for change in very specific ways, setting goals that are measurable, that are simple, that are attainable, and that are set by the client, and the client is ready to achieve those goals. That's very important within reality therapy, is that the client is in the driver's seat, of course, but has to be ready for change, and we're there to kind of facilitate that process. So there are a lot of different applications for reality therapy in a variety of different settings. In terms of diversity perspectives and cultural perspectives, to me, the bigger limitation is that to me, I can't imagine ignoring those outside environmental forces, the social forces that do impact those needs, our everyday needs for survival and achievement and fun and fulfillment, and establishing relationships. And so, if I were kind of practicing from this orientation squarely, then I would have to rectify that in my mind, is that there are these environmental forces that impact our clients that I can't imagine not taking into consideration. But overall, because of the short-term, brief nature of reality therapy, it works really well for a lot of groups of individuals, and because you're looking at somebody's ability to make a choice themselves. And so it's very empowering to groups of individuals that have been marginalized, individuals that maybe have not always had the power or influence to make choices on their own, or ever been supported to think that their choices matter in that way, or that they have some type of control over their lives. And so it's really very much so focused on autonomy within their, supporting our clients and their goals, and making sure that that they understand that they can achieve them. So lots of different contributions to it, obviously, to within the recovery world. To me, I see some parallels between reality therapy and choice theory and motivational interviewing. Although motivational interviewing is, I would say, a more lengthy process if you're looking at kind of that cycle of change, commitment to change, and things of that nature. But I do see a lot of parallels within those two theoretical orientations. So with that, I'm just going to leave you guys to look at the videos and to review some of the websites. Like I said, I really encourage you to do that to see what other information is out there from Glasser and from Wobbleding, who are both, well, relatively local. They're not too far away from us here. But there is also a role play to watch that's pretty short, as one would expect with reality therapy, that you're getting a short video of Wobbleding doing his thing. So with that, I'll leave you guys to it and the discussion board, and I'll touch back at the next module.